Hey, we're ready, Caleb, or whoever. There we go.
All right, then I'm going to, oh, we have a different agenda on this.
Yes.
All right, well, we'll call the meeting to order. This is be the January 17th, 2024, the inspectors of the Carbon County Jail meeting. These proceedings are being recorded for the sole purpose of constituting the accuracy of written minutes. Tapes are reused, eliminating recorded records of these proceedings. So now at this point in the meeting, we'll turn over to nominations by our solicitor, Attorney Robert Fricklin.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'll call for nominations for the president.
Nominate Mike Greek.
I'll second.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay, I'll call for a motion to name Mike Greek as the president of the inspectors of the Carbon County Jail.
So move.
All right. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations.
Thank you. All right, thank you, guys. Then I'll open the nominations for the position of vice president of the inspectors of the Carbon County Jail.
I'll nominate Wayne Notstein.
Okay, there's a nomination by Wayne. Is there a second? I'll second that nomination. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, sit, Bill.
Are you interested?
You really don't do the minutes or anything. Jody does all the minutes and that, you just approve them.
I nominate Gail,
There you go. I will second that.
or either Judge Service would be the second option.
All right, who made the motion?
I did.
Rocky did. Who seconded it? Mike?
I did.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, is that all we have on here? It's like all duplicative. There are two on the minutes, it says two vice presidents, oh, secretary, what's secretary again? All
Well,
right.
it's for nominations and then for the vote.
Oh, okay. I did all, all right, I get it. All right, are there any guests present? There being no guests, then we'll move for the approval of the minutes of the meeting held December 20th, 2023.
Motion approved.
Motion by Rocky, second.
Second.
By Wayne, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay. With the abstention of Commissioner Franco, motion carries. Report of executive sessions held. Didn't we have an executive session?
Yeah, we did.
And that was
Personnel
on,
one.
what date did we have that? Just so we get it in the minutes here.
Is that litigation?
Yeah, it was on, personnel.
Personnel.
Yep.
It was last week.
Monday, yeah, the 8th.
Monday the 8th, that's right. So we had an executive session was held on Monday the 8th, and it was on a personnel disciplinary matter. All right, reports of committee, maintenance report.
Sites Brothers was in for their monthly service. Train came in, they finished their quarterly PMs on the rooftop units. Allstate was in to empty the grease trap. I submitted the monthly reports to DEP. We're still waiting on Johnson Control to come back and upgrade the camera system. The different division of Johnson Control was in for an issue with the fire panel. And we had Keystone Fire Systems in for an issue with the door panel. We're continuing to try to reduce the amount of garbage that is going to our grinder pit because our grinder doesn't seem to be working the way it should. I reached out to the company that manufactured it to replace the bottom half of the grinder. Just for the parts, it's like $10,000 and change. I reached out to Nesquehoning Borough's Sewer Authority, and I was talking with Bob, and he gave me a couple numbers of people to call. There's one that's Lyndon Martin. He said to give him a call. So I called out. He didn't answer. I left him a message. When he gets back, I'm going to see what it would cost to order it. He'll just come up and take a look at it, and then we can go from there on what we'll need to do.
Was that one of the original pumps?
No, this is in the grinder, it was replaced in, I wanna say 2010. When I reached out to the manufacturer, he said usually like the teeth that are on the grinder last anywhere from 5 to 10 years. And like I said, I can send you a copy of what I have, but at this point, we're hoping not to go to this route.
Anybody have any more questions? Thank you. Work release report.
Mr. Schubik is absent, so I'll be giving a report for him. He's broken his report down into two tiers for this prison board. The first one is from December 30th to December 31st, which will also encompass the end of the year. There were 3 inmates on work release during that period. The net income for the final week was $584.32. Disbursements were as follows: $175 dispersed for the month and $21,500 for the year. Court cost $250 for the month and $2,200 for the year. There were no medication costs or personal expense costs, magistrate costs. Inmate payments was $347.32 for the month and $47,042.49 for the year, and the escrow account was $125 for the year to date. The second part of Mr. Schubek's report is from January 1st through January 16th. Net income for this portion of the month was $1,514.17, and the disbursement was as follows: $700 for room and board, which is also the year to date. $50 for court costs. Inmate payment cost was $734.17, and the escrow account was $30. That concludes Mr. Schubek's report.
Any questions on the work release report? If none, we'll move to the warden's report.
Okay, the following is for the time period of December 31st, 2023 to December 31st, or December 1st, I'm sorry, 23 to December 31st, 23. We had 50 male admissions during the time period and 22 female admissions, 53 male releases and 15 female releases. Our average daily population for that time frame was 142 inmates. Total for the month was 122 males, 19 females for 141. Total admissions for the year was 1,089 inmates. Transports for the time period, we had 6 hospital runs, 4 specialists, 1 eye doctor run, for a total of 11 transports. We had no inmates in the hospital during the time period. That concludes my report.
Any questions for the warden? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to accept the warden's report.
Motion to accept the warden's report.
Motion made in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Executive session. Everybody can stay in, we just have to go offline.
Nope.
seconds. There you go.
Okay, we're back. We were in an executive session discussing an issue relating to certain equipment in the prison, which falls within a security issue that warrants an executive session. Okay, since we did that, no further action needed to be taken with regard to that. Personnel report. It's attached. Anybody have any questions on the personnel report? Motion to accept the personnel report.
Motion.
Motion made by Dan, is there a second? Rocky, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there any new business?
One issue back to the committees. So I'm guessing it didn't transfer over for this year. Last year, we created the Plan of Action Committee. That's not listed under the committee reports. I think my recommendation is that that goes back on there due to ongoing issues.
Okay, so we're on the Plan of Action Committee, so we're there. Good, was there any report? I think we did have a discussion, we met, but, we discussed things related to a grant. Was there anything you wanted to add?
So just the quick report to that, we did, Attorney Levy was working on a grant. We were awarded approximately $570-some thousand. There was some adjustments that needed to be made. The district attorney and myself went and met with the warden and deputy warden, made some, I guess, decisions on how that should be made. There was a time frame that Attorney Levy needed to submit things. We checked with court administration and several other offices to kind of update what that money was gonna be spent on based on needs. That was submitted to Attorney Levy. I think it was a good, solid plan to make several improvements through that grant to the prison. And really the changes were decreasing some things that weren't needed and reallocating those funds. In addition to that, the warden, we spoke with the warden about the inspection report that was provided. We directed the warden to create a document that lists all of the deficiencies and violations and how those are being addressed so that we can get an update on those things. So the warden indicated that he would do that. A lot of those areas that were listed were corrected already, but we think that it's important that the prison board gets provided with that overall update so that we know it's getting addressed. So when the next inspection comes through, we're not getting gigged on the same things. So we'll schedule a meeting for February and begin. I would imagine you guys already started doing that.
Yeah.
And putting that stuff together.
May I ask a question? Who is the administrator of the grant?
I don't know that that was decided or who that goes to.
And it should,
Attorney Levy has that.
the county?
County,
The town, we should take care of it, where it goes to make sure that it's within the guidelines.
I mean, I'm welcoming recommendations, but has any of that been spent yet, or any?
I don't think we got it yet.
No.
Commissioner. My understanding that what Attorney Levy sent out, the money that we got was less than what was
Allocated?
asked for.
Okay.
So there needed to be a discussion on, if you have less money, what do you need to cut out? And I think the warden and deputy warden had a good idea about what
Okay.
that needed to be.
So are those, I mean, just getting hold, are those recommendations gonna come before the prison board and then forward it to the commissioners, or what's the?
It's already on your agenda for tomorrow.
Okay. I'll review it later then. Thank you.
And I think we put in for like $700 some thousand
Yeah.
and we only got.
And no, difference, you weren't in on those at that time, it was all the stuff consistent with what we talked about at our meeting. Remember when we had that one, we talked about the revisions to the code, so it was in there, it was just on the number of items or.
Yeah, and I think they
Yeah.
opened
Heating
it up.
units,
Yeah,
you know,
okay,
they were in there, and with the polycoms, you know, Attorney Levy wanted, I don't know, say 10 polycoms, talking with the warden, he didn't need all of those polycoms, so if you have to have less money, you eliminate the polycoms or some of the things.
And that was a grant we could put in for things in the past, up to, was it 18 months or
COVID.
2 years?
Yeah,
Yeah, if
COVID
it's back to that, it didn't have
reimbursements or
that,
something?
that we're not doing it now, we
It's
could even.
effective August first of 2022 through July 31st of 2024.
Okay.
And part of that will be when discussing with Attorney Levy, if we get, I think it was $20,000 for COVID reimbursements, if that comes back to the county or the prison or wherever it goes to, are there restrictions on how that gets spent? He indicated that there were not. So it would be, I think our conversation was a recommendation to the prison board to set up a building fund to put that money into for upgrades to the prison. For example, the secure entry, right? So maybe if you start that and there's $20,000 in there, now you're able to get another grant on top of that, that pays for that whole, process. The pole barn, maybe the pole barn comes out of that, but at least it goes into a separate fund for a purpose for those upgrades. So it sounded like what Attorney Levy said, that was possible to do, that once you got that, it didn't have to be earmarked to say, well, now you got 20,000, you have to go buy $20,000 worth of masks and COVID-related things. You didn't have to do that.
So we could possibly use the 20,000 for a match on another, right?
Well, 20,000 to use for whatever.
The grant committee was postponed from this afternoon at 3 o'clock till next Thursday, or Wednesday at 3 o'clock due to a scheduling conflict for us.
Okay.
And if you are done with that, I'd like to bring something up, maybe what the sheriff just said, connecting to that. I think I've been looking at this opiate money that we're getting, and ever since I've been here, we've been talking about doing things at the prison, either adding something on, we were talking about like that entrance or whatever. But is that something that we can use this money and tag on to other money, that we can get some of these things done, I know it has to be, it's opiate related, but is there something that we can take some other money and do something? I know we were talking about adding a conference room, or like I said, it's not, it's secure coming into prison, but we could change things that maybe people from the outside don't have to come 100% into the prison to get treatment or whatever they're doing. So maybe that's something that we can look into the future, and I just wanted to ask, like even with the warden and the deputy warden, you're working with this, people from mental health coming in, from drug and alcohol. For me, I'm looking for ideas that if we can do something like that. I see a lot of people, walking down the street from the prison. Where are they going? You know what I mean? And I think we have to start connecting with outside sources, which I think the connection is there. So can we do something at the prison? And like I said, if you would put $1 million piece on the bill, we could only use a third of it if it's, a third opiate, a third would be alcohol, a third would be mental health. But at least I'm looking like we gotta start something maybe, and that's what I think my idea was all along. Let's start tagging some of these grants together, that we can do some of these projects, but I think that's, and this opiate money, we have to report on, that's not anything with you, but if there's something that you guys think, I think I'm looking for suggestions. I've heard a lot of suggestions for the last 4 years, and I don't think we followed through with it. And I think it's time, once we start getting this money, and we will, I don't think we should be getting the payments for the second lawsuit that we have sometime this summer. They don't know if it's gonna go in one payment or 2 payments, but we're gonna be getting some money. I don't wanna misuse it and spend $1 million somewhere, and then the trust is gonna say you can't use it for that. So maybe there's something that we can come up with, that we can have some kind of a plan, even if it only pays for half of it. But we'd have to have something to send to the trust and let the trust determine, what's the best way to do it. For us to determine it, we could spend $500,000 and not even know that it's the right way to do it.
So one of the things we talked about in our plan of action committee was, I think, in conversations with Attorney Levy and with other people, there's an idea out there, well, the prison needs this service, or they need this, or they need that. I think the warden and deputy warden and his team need to make those recommendations, because if they don't need it, why are we gonna pursue it? And I don't know that we've had that discussion openly about, here's our list of things that you think are beneficial, and, or maybe it's not. And I think to go off of what you are talking about, if there's a need, how can we use that opioid money? And now, there's likely gonna be $20,000 reimbursement that's gonna be put aside into a fund to tag on top of whatever else, because there will be no restrictions on that 20,000. There will be restrictions on the opioid money, right? So how can you make that work? But rather than throwing darts at a board, and this is what we talk about in the grant committee all the time, just because a grant comes down doesn't mean we should apply for it if there's no infrastructure set up and there really isn't a need. You know, I think we look at the last grant that came down was specific to school stuff. But yet an email went out that we should be looking at how we pursue getting that grant. Well, that's something the school should be doing, not us. But I strongly value the warden and deputy warden's opinion. That's, you know, they know that facility and what their needs are better than anybody else. So I look for their advice on how do we get something done.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking, I've always heard that there's not enough room for certain things. Maybe that's where we should be looking into something. I mean, and I'm not saying $1 million addition, but something that might be a conference room that you can use or whatever, but.
And the other thing is, we're on a, Commissioner Olstein and I are on that opioid grant committee with Judge Matika, but we wanna see how some of the other ones, there's a lot with this other set of lawsuits and that money coming in, and there's a third set, but the money that's in there, other counties are doing certain things. We wanna see how that plays out, because we're really focused on making that division on when it's the opioid as opposed to drugs and alcohol, or other drugs and alcohol, and trying to make sure it's funded the right way, and we're looking for a bigger project with it. We're gonna go up this weekend for the day reporting center, which, you know,
It's one of the reasons we're going to the day reporting center, to see where we can spend it, and like Attorney Greek said, it's hard to spend that money because of the restrictions. It has to be tied to the opiate. The coordinator position that we just contracted with DNA, we will be using some of that funding for that, but we have to do a percentage for the court cases. And you know yourself, when you, Chris, and I all sat in different sessions, and they all said the same thing. They didn't know where they could spend it.
Let's see what
Exactly.
We still have it, we're not in danger of losing it, we're coming up with plans that are like that, and then at the time.
Working on it.
But the fact is, we gotta see what the other counties are doing too, because they spent it on brick and mortar buildings.
Yeah,
It doesn't fit into the way we understand it.
No, and
No.
I think they might wind up getting themselves in trouble. And when I talked to one of the people that was on the trust, I think last week, put a plan together, send it to the trust, and see what they think before we
Yeah,
spend the money.
right.
I mean, if there's a plan, and maybe they'll look at it that, oh yeah, this does relate, you know, this person was using opiates, but now created mental issues for them. So maybe you can tie them things together, instead of like the example I gave, a third of the money, maybe we can use half that money, you know what I mean? It's like, but I said, I think it's up to the board and then what do you want in there? And like I said, we'll just have to get it, and if you look on their website, there's questions on there that are already answered, that these people are using stuff for that is not allowed. And I don't want our county to get a couple $1 million, and then next thing we have $3 million that were in infraction of Exhibit E, you know, that we're gonna wind up, and then it's the taxpayers' money, not ours. Let's use this money the best way that we can, and like I said, and I think the trust is open to the county's suggestions. So let's open up to them instead of thinking what we think we can use it for. Let them determine. You know, I mean, there's a lot of suggestions here.
Right.
Send it to them, just like the grant. We get applied for 700,000, they only gave us 500. Let them knock off what they, you know,
Right.
what's not determined. But I think it's a good start for the warden and the deputy. Like when you're talking to drug and alcohol or mental health or whatever, what would be related to that? You know, and I think it's like sooner than later. I mean, I don't wanna, but I mean, you guys have been working with it for years already. Like what, I mean, I'm sure there's suggestions in your minds already.
But I think if they come up with that wish list
Yeah.
of what they need,
Yeah.
we could start attacking one thing after
Exactly.
another. And this grant allows us to already check several of those things off the list that are not gonna be a cost to the county for the heating and air handlers and all those kinds of things. You know, possibly at the pole building that we've been talking about, get that done. So those are things we don't need to dedicate any more money to, because it'll already be done.
Yeah, and I mean, it is great with that heating, because we've already paid for that, you know what I mean? Now, that's money, yeah, we have that, but it's paying for that, but it's giving us money out of the budget at another place.
Right.
Okay.
Do you have anything else under front of that? That was it. Okay, anything under new business then? Any old business? Any correspondence? Anything from our favorite attorney?
Nothing to report.
Okay, with that, and I apologize for not, for skipping over the Pledge of Allegiance, that was inadvertent at the beginning of the meeting. And with that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.